Right then, this is a quick walk around video, and this is for, I have to point out, this is my own personal car. Although this has been advertised on our website at BMC Specialist Cars, I'm one of the owners of the company, but this is my vehicle, so it is a private sale. The only reason I'm using the company's website is so I don't have to pay Auto Trader twice for an advert, which I'm not going to do, but I have to make that absolutely clear. This is a hard day for me advertising this car because this is exceptional. It's a UK car, DC2, with just 62,900 miles recorded. It's just had a refresh, and that doesn't mean a full respray or anything like that. It's had the wheels done, the sills done. The car was extraordinarily clean anyway, but over the years obviously it gets into them slightly, but it's all been done at quite some expense. Coming around the car, front of the car first, and I apologise, it's windy today, so I hope you can hear me. Front of the car extremely clean. Bumper and bonnet hardly exhibit a stone chip anywhere. It is wonderfully clean. Near side, passenger side, it's absolutely mirror smooth in the panel work there. The wheels powder coated, done to a very high standard, and look absolutely pristine. On the back of the car, again, it's absolutely wonderfully clean. Unfortunately the sun's going to pop out now, which is rubbish for doing videos, but I've done the majority of it, which is good. Around to the offside, driver's side, so it's going to be a bit glary now, so I really apologise. Extraordinarily clean. There's basically these lower, there was little bubbles coming under where it says the Type R there. They're brand new graphics on there, or decals rather. But the inner arches were done, so it was all done properly, everything was removed. It was there for many months getting it all done for me. And then final alloy, absolutely superb. And externally, apologise, just wait for the car to go by. Unfortunately, the shadows from the poles behind me going across the car don't help now, but it is extremely clean. It's not to say it is a used car, and there will be a microscopic blemish somewhere on the vehicle, but you'll have to look extremely hard to find anything. It's coming into the boot now. It's all the carpeted areas, so I get rid of the leaf that's popped in there. Are absolutely fantastic. This is the worst part of the car, and it's been used basically in the back, so the plastics do have marks on them. I'm not going to hide from that at all. The whole point of this video is to be honest with people, but as I said, I think the chap was a golfer before me. I'm certainly not. I'm not any good anyway, but there we go. Let's come to the front now. Both door cards are absolutely pristine again, wonderfully clean. There is a full set of original Honda Type R mats fitted to the car. Front passenger seat there, again, absolutely wonderful condition. Not been refurbished, they're exactly as they were. I treated it with kid gloves inside. I wouldn't let anyone in and out with dirty clothes or boots. That's been kept wonderfully. That's a leaf on the other one, by the way, but I'll get there in a second. Now if I pull the seat forward, again in the back, not that you really want to spend any time in there because there's not a lot of room in all honesty, but it's been kept wonderfully clean. Let's come into the driver's door card. As I said, absolutely fantastic in the way it's been kept. Footwell area, so Type R mat there, get rid of that leaf off the seat now. Now the driver's seat, as anyone that knows that looks at these, is the one that takes all the wear, and this one, over the mileage it's done, is probably one of the best you'll ever see, and it's completely original. The bolsters haven't been touched, so they have a tiny bit. I mean, the bolsters are lovely and solid. There's all paddings there, just the tiniest bit of wear which you've got to expect, but it's been kept wonderfully. So inside the car now, engine's running through this section, so the dashboard can be seen illuminated, or at least the rev counter moving, so there's no light showing on the car at all. The dashboard looks pretty much as new in here. It is an air-conditioned model. original Honda. Sorry, it's quite glary there. Radio that was fitted to the car when it was new. The Type R gear shift is in perfect condition. Again, not always the case. I'm not sure whether you can make that out or not, but it is number 6152 of the build of these cars. And then I come across the main dashboard. Wonderfully simple dashboard, absolutely brilliant. No warning light showing at all on the vehicle. You can see there's 62,899 miles currently recorded on the car. It's not been used, it's been dry stored, so that won't be going up apart from the occasional viewing of the vehicle. Right then, this is a road test video, and this is for a Honda Integra, and it's a 1.8 Type R. It is the DC2 version. The car is registered X957SAV, and mileage is 62,900 miles. The reason I do these videos is basically that if anyone's looking online and seeing the car advertised, they get to see that car in operation. As I made clear in the walk around video, this is my car, so just to repeat that. And this is my second attempt at doing the road test video. First time, and it may be the same again, so I really apologise. The camera was resonating with the microphone, but if it's doing the same again, I apologise, because it's not in the car. The only part of the vehicle that is not genuine is the silencer. It's not a performance aid at all. It is purely for acoustics. It sounds absolutely superb. It's not overly loud, but it sounded horrible on the video, and it may sound horrible again, so I do apologise, but it doesn't sound anything like that when you drive the car. So coming to the car itself, ordinarily with these videos for our company's cars, I go through all the parts of the car, driving the car, engine, gearbox, clutch, and then go through them one by one. And I will kind of do them as I'm going along with this one, but slightly different in the sense that they're all absolutely perfect. There is no fault with the car. It drives absolutely as tight as a drum in every way. There's only one thing on this vehicle that merits a mention, and I'm being really picky. That electric door mirror there, if I adjust it up and down, fine, but it doesn't go left to right. It may be something simple. It's not something I'm attending to. I'm highlighting it because that is the point of doing the videos. But ultimately, that is the sum and total of anything on the vehicle, because aside from that, the car drives pretty much as new. And I am in a good position to judge that. When I worked at the Honda dealer, I had the Integra Type R was my company car, and I had one for probably the best part of 3 years, with different ones over the years. So I know exactly how they should drive, and this is amazing, because normally when you get back in a car after 20 years or so, although I've owned the car for many years, I'm just saying that if you know anyone that tries a car like this, they can often leave you a little bit disappointed. They can feel very old to drive. Certain manufacturers I've jumped into and it got back in. I won't name them. It's not fair. But they've just felt their age. They felt old. The steering felt really loose. The gear changes are horrible and all over the place. And this is where Honda are brilliant, because this car, it's hard to differentiate it from a modern Honda. The actuation of the throttle, the actuation of the clutch, the brakes, the feel of the steering, everything is beautifully, beautifully engineered, and it's why I love these cars. It's why I love Honda as a manufacturer, especially this vintage, because I think this was, the glory days of Honda. Absolutely the glory days. I remember when the talk was of the Integra coming out into the marketplace, and the pre-publicity that came before it when it was going around various racetracks, so it was building up kind of a legend before it even came to us, and boy, when it came, did it live up to all of that. The beauty of the car, I've always found it is in the sense that it is completely different. It's nothing. It could be nothing other than Japanese, and I think that's something that should be celebrated with, you know, this particular car. It's got that kind of lovely kind of profile to it, so very delicate almost looking. It's a really handsome looking car, and the spoiler, which seemed in its day to be, you know, ridiculously big, now is completely fitting. Honda were quite often way ahead of their time, and their styling ages wonderfully well. But on top of that, it's all about the car. It's all about what the car gives you as a driver. And there's so many things said about this car. There's so many kind of cliches, I guess, about the vehicle as well. But to me, it's still the car that I think you can jump in and drive, and you can access all that it can give you relatively easily for even a sort of relatively novice driver. The engine is, you know, without doubt, is one of the greatest ever four-cylinder engines ever manufactured. An engine that's tractable. You know, here I'll slow right down. You know, 2,000 RPM, 30 miles an hour. You know, you put your foot down, no fluffing. It just pulls immediately. It's clean. There's none of that horrible kind of turbo lag you get in modern cars. They're all the same, and they've all got that same awful kind of drony noise to them. They have to now artificially feed stuff through the speakers of the car to make them sound half decent. This one, quite the opposite. I mean, it is just a race engine. It's as simple as that. In terms of its sound, it just sounds absolutely sensational. The way that engine pulls as soon as the VTEC kicks in, and it hammers round to its red line, and it just gets stronger and stronger the closer. When most engines, well, they would never get that far, obviously, unless it's Exotica, but most engines, you know, they're crying enough about 5,000, 5.5, 6 maybe, but they certainly sound strained. But that's when they're in their sweet spot. Then they get sweeter and more aggressive as it gets close to the red line. It is absolutely addictive. But worth pointing out, I will never ever put these into the VTEC zone until the engine is warm, and I'll never do that. It's something I've always stuck to. But the engine is an absolute peach. But then it all comes together because the clutch, the actuation of the clutch, which might not sound important, but it really is brilliantly judged, because it gives you access to one of the very finest gearboxes you'll ever use. The quality of gear change, it's short and shift, it feels, not only because of the gear knob, but it feels mechanical in the way it changes gear. You can feel the synchromesh acting as you go into the gears, and they all feel the same. There's no difference whether you go to second, third, fourth, fifth. The actual feel as you go in is identical. It is brilliant, and it's not worn one jot in all the years it's been on the road, or the miles it's done, which are obviously admittedly very low. My friend had one of these bought from me years and years ago. A man that sort of swore blind everything was Volkswagen to him at the time. But he ran one of these over 140,000 miles. I think it was nearly 150,000 miles in the end. By all accounts, the car's still going. But that car was absolutely rock solid all the way through, and would have driven pretty much exactly the same as this. So with good maintenance, they wear incredibly well. Sitting in here now, you get this seating position which is dead straight ahead. You've got this wonderful Momo steering wheel. The Recaros literally just pin you in place. I'm not the biggest bloke in the world, I'm 6 foot, but I'm pinched into the seat. But that means that when you push the car, you feel every motion of the vehicle. There's no moving in your seat. The seat doesn't move on its mounts. The steering wheel, which is in exactly the right position for enthusiastic driving, a dashboard directly in front, which gives you nothing other than the information you need, and just beautifully done. Very kind of reminiscent of a Honda sort of motorbikes, you know, symmetrical rev counter and speedos. You look down, you get that information in, and that's it, you're back on the road. They're flanked by the temperature and fuel gauge. The temperature gauge, by the way, running at a third, which is exactly where it's meant to be. But just beautifully done. It's minimalist. It's very much of its era, and all the better for it. It is a wonderful place to sit and drive a car, and beautifully made. I mean, yeah, the plastics aren't like they are in modern cars, but everything works with a wonderful precision of actuation. The air conditioning is still ice cold after all these years. It's a fantastic place to sit, and far, far, far more comfortable than the original road test magazines would ever give it credit for. It rides, as all good sports cars tend to do, very well, because it means it's not reliant on just shoving really stiff shocks and low profile tyres onto a car, which gives you a horribly crashy ride. To get the handling as they have, they've given the shell, it's incredibly stiff, you know, so there's no twist in it, or very little, but it means that they can give the compliance with the shock absorbers. They can work on quite high profile tyres by modern standards, which means driving along here, it actually rides the imperfections far, far better than most modern cars, even just normal family ones, the lukewarm ones. Only sharper ridges will catch it out where the body is stiff, but never uncomfortable. But the backdrop to all of that is the finest part of this car, which is the chassis. It is without doubt. I've done lots of motor racing in my time. I still can't believe a car like this can handle as well as it does, because it's extraordinary to find a front wheel drive car with it's accurate, it's precise, but it's more than that, the body control, but the feedback you get through the steering, which initially can feel kind of almost slow, slightly heavy. You think there's nothing special with it. By God, there is. When you lean on it, it transmits everything back to you, because you're sat pinned into the seat, as I said, so all your sensors are conscious of the fact you can feel a change in the type of tarmac you're on. You know, as you go through the corner, the transition from a little bit of understeer to the back starting to move around, and you feel it all. It's absolutely perfect in that sense. And for those going to ask the question, yes, I have put it on a track. I put it on twice, actually, but only a couple of hours, because I didn't want to hammer it, but I do want to enjoy the car, and I'm not shy of saying that. It's not to put anyone off, because if anyone buys it, I'd hope they'll do the same, because it's a car that's designed to do it. But it is an extraordinary vehicle on the track, and if someone buys it, I'll happily take them around the track in it as well, so I'll show them what it's capable of doing, and I mean that. Of this era, there were a few cars that it was pitted against over the years, and only a couple I ever thought really stood up to it in terms of chassis or what they could possibly do. You can forget things like the old Vauxhall Calibra, the Fiat Coupe. They weren't even in the same league as this thing when it came to A, B, minor roads and tracks. They just couldn't get anywhere near the thing. The Corrado of its time was a really smashing car. It didn't have the adjustability of this car, just didn't. It was more nose heavy. The closest, actually, in my opinion, was the Peugeot 306, the GTI 6. Again, like this, it leant on all four wheels when it into a corner. It was more exaggerated in a way, because it would really lift its inside wheel, but it worked the chassis in the right way, and you got that same kind of scalpel sharp precision when you went through corners that you get with these. Difference with these were more forgiving. They would flow over different road surfaces better than the Peugeot at the time, and of course the chassis holds together a whole lot better, as does the rest of the car, in terms of build quality and the quality of the components that Honda use on these vehicles. But it is a truly extraordinary car. Its appeal will be limited to those who are aware of it, and that's something, you know, I'm fully aware of. But people adore these cars, and it is an exceptional example of one. It drives, as I said, exactly as it did when it was new. Brings me to the final, probably sort of slightly contentious point, and it's basically to do with if anyone comes to see the car and kind of test drives. Basically, there are none. What I've done today is to demonstrate the car drives absolutely as it should. If someone, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because it's the way I've bought some of my cars from other people who've done the same thing, because they didn't want people just coming along and having a drive in the car. So if someone is interested in the vehicle, then first and foremost they'll be given access to the outside of the car to look around the outside. If they're then happy with the exterior of the car will be opened up, so you can look inside the vehicle. Because we're living in the time of the virus, at the time of this video certainly, I can't risk it. My son's high risk, I'm not going to risk it for anybody. So then, if you're happy with all of that and everything's agreed prior, a test drive is available, but only once a deposit is placed on the vehicle. The deposit is not refundable unless there is a fault with the car when it drives, and if it drives as it should, the car will be purchased on that basis. I know the car drives exactly as it should, so it holds no fears to me at all. But machines are machines. It, in theory, as unlikely as it is, it could develop an issue, but that's kind of a 1 in a million chance. And I hate doing that, and I hate, because obviously as a business with our company cars, we promote test drives. We want people to test drives. It's always referred to as bums on seats. But with this car, it's far too valuable for me to just put out on the road. We recently had a couple of very lovely sporty Hondas in stock, and I have to say, you know, it is frustrating when you say to people prior to a test drive, if the car drives as it should, are you looking to actually purchase this vehicle? Because it's rare that we say that, because we have to on certain cars. We can't risk cars being on the road of very high performance ones or very rare ones, as in this case, only for people to finish the test drive and said, yeah, even though they'd agreed to purchase it, to walk away having achieved what they wanted, which was purely to drive the car. I can't afford to do it on this vehicle, and I'm sorry about that. And I know it may sound precious, but it's not meant to. It said this car is too important to me to risk it in any way. As always though, if you've got any questions about the car, don't hesitate, do give us a call.